Our first session will be taken by Mr. Rodney Adewole Olusola, who's a partner and the partner for People and Organization Advisory at PricewaterhouseCoopers. He's an internationally trained human resource management consultant, a leadership development expert with exceptional experience advising blue chip organizations and coaching professionals at all career levels. He has proven expertise in design and implementation of talent management strategies, leadership development, and organizational effectiveness programs. His consulting experience includes projects for organizations in consumer packaged goods, oil and gas, banking, government, and education. And he has industry sector competencies across various industries, including the financial services, IT and computer hardware, energy and oil and gas, healthcare, government, and public sector. He will be speaking on leading the future with the sub-themes Millennial and Gen Zs and the new way of work. He would also be talking on mobility and the future of work. And he will also be talking about democratizing leadership in the workplace. Please join me to welcome Mr. Olusola Rodney Oluwole.
Good morning. Thank you, Tosin, for that introduction. I will like to say a big thank you to the organizers of the PLLI for this laudable initiative. I didn't even realize that it was targeted at the demographic that you just listed. So I think that's a very powerful way to influence and really transform our world. I'm going to be sharing my screen, so I hope I have the permission to share. Okay, good. So can you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can see your screen. We can see your screen very well.
Good. Oh, good. Thank you very much. So I realized that I've been asked to speak about leading the future, understanding and leading the millennial and Gen Z generation, and I've been introduced, so that's perfectly in order. My outline will be in 4 parts. I will start by setting the context and speaking about what we call at PwC the global megatrends, and it's not by any means proprietary to PwC per se. A lot of what I'm going to be saying are things that most of us already see in the world of work that we live in anyway. Then I'm going to be trying to talk about the millennials and the Gen Zs. Who exactly are they? Again, I'm not going to try to give you definitions about their age bracket and all of that. But of course, I'm sure you know that it is widely accepted, depending on who you are listening to. Pardon me. The millennials are the generation that were born between 1980 and I believe the 2000s. So these guys are not exactly, these ladies and guys are not exactly children, as it were. And then of course the Gen Zs follow thereafter. Then I'm going to be talking about the workforce of the future, because obviously this generation are not just particularly in this part of the world, they are not just the burgeoning, the exploding generation in terms of taking over our world, but they are also heavily in the world of work now. They are beginning to occupy more and more prominence, and some of them already are leading major world-class organizations. And then I will wrap up by sharing a few thoughts on a call to action. What can we do? Starting from what can I do myself if I'm a millennial, I'm a Gen Z, what can the leaders, in business, in government, even in the church, in the mosque, in the houses of faith, what can we do so that, we can harness the sheer raw power of this generation? Okay. Some of us may have seen this, this quotation somewhere. It's public. It's on the internet. Talks about what some guy called Ray Kurzweil, who is regarded as a futurist, and it's a good idea to be a futurist yourself, to always keep your eyes on the future. Predicted that 20,000 years of progress up until then, this was a few years ago, will be crammed into the next 100. In fact, when he was saying this, he probably certainly did not think about COVID-19. What we have spoken about for the last maybe, give or take 5-10 years about the future of work has suddenly come upon us with COVID-19. And it's now what, if you like, the new world of work. Some people call it, I delivered the paper a few days ago where I called it the new abnormal. Okay, so it's not really even normal because it's different. It's not what we've always known, as it were. So I'm going to start with the global mega trends. COVID-19, as I've mentioned, is a global mega trend. When PwC did the work on mega trends, we didn't foresee COVID-19 at all. But it's interesting, if you actually see the mega trends, you will see that in a very interesting way, if you really think about it, COVID-19 or the eventuality of a pandemic like COVID-19 was somewhere in the shadows. If you could see with the eyes of faith, or you could actually see the realities of COVID-19 somewhere behind these mega trends. If you think about urbanization, it is reputed that COVID-19 has not hit the rural areas as much as it has hit the urban areas. It is also said that COVID-19 has been so acute in the developed economies simply because there's more global travel. I mean, if you're traveling on the tube in London, at any point in time in your carriage, you could have a German, an Italian, a Frenchman, and so on and so forth. Whereas while in Lagos here, we do have a decent international community, but you won't find them in Alimosho or in Bariga. You probably just find them in little pockets on the island. So rapid urbanization, a big mega trend. Significant increase in the world's population, moving to live not just in cities, but even in bigger cities across the globe. Then, of course, you have the demographic shifts that are happening. What I find very interesting about the demographic and social change is that in the Western world, the population is aging, okay? But in Nigeria, or in the developing economies of the world, the demographics is getting younger. Where we have the fastest growing part of the population among these millennials and Gen Zs. Of course, when I was in university, I studied geography, and there was a course I took on the geography of the humid tropics. It was a mixture of climatology and economics and human geography. And one of the things that we learned there was that the reason why we have such a rapid growth in population in developing world is because obviously we don't have much else to do in terms of recreation. So people tend to just procreate and so on and so forth. So, but having said that, the fact is we have a huge proportion of our population who are young. Then, of course, very closely associated with all of that is shifts in global economic power. Who would have thought that China would be building airports in Nigeria and lending Nigeria so much money? Who would have thought? Growing up, for those of us who are Gen X or whatever, before all of this millennial stuff came on the forefront. We were if you had something, if you wanted to talk about inferiority, then you say, oh, this your wristwatch is China. Or even in 2001 when the mobile phones came, they say, oh, this is China. But now most of us carry iPhones and so on and so forth. And if you look very closely, you will discover that it's produced not too far from China. So economic power is shifting, and that itself has many implications for the world of work in this part of the world. So if you take the demographic shifts, you take the urbanization, and then of course you take the shifts in economic power, you can easily deduce why a number of people who are young and youthful, as they seek better opportunities, are moving to Canada or moving to the UK to augment the workforce that is aging in those countries, and obviously increase their earning power. Of course, the good side of it for us is that the CBN will tell you that there's plenty of US dollars flowing back home in remittances and things like that as people build new economic fortunes. And then, of course, I'm sure many of us are familiar with the current debate around ESG, sustainability issues, and all of that stuff. All of this has become a very front burner, where investors want to know what is your commitment to sustainability issues before they even give you money. Are you contributing to the carbon footprint in the world as an organization? If your organization is busy flying people over the world without necessarily consideration for the environment, and so on and so forth. In the hotels now, they tell you, before we clean your room, you've got to tell us to do so, because, we don't want to burn resources. Now, I saw a hand raised. Am I allowed to take questions midstream? I would prefer to take it at the end, but I saw a hand raised.
No, sir, we will prefer for you to take it at the end of the session, sir. So
okay.
Can I please implore the person wanting to ask the question to give us some time to wrap up the session and then ask the question?
Okay. All right. Thanks. And then, of course, we have technology breakthroughs. And this is easily the biggest mega trend that has shaped our world and continues to shape our world. I'm personally excited about this. I spent the last couple of days with a major telecommunications company, and they're speaking big time around how technology is even changing their own world as well. I mean, there's so many things that we can do now with technology that is changing the way we see things. I mean, if you think about COVID-19 again, that is now overarching over all of this, and the things that we've learned post-COVID. Just imagine if technology advances had not reached the level they were at the time when COVID-19 struck. We will all be in a terrible mess. Today, I heard Tosi list people joining this call from different parts. You could be anywhere, but we have been able to, use the technology that we have to surmount the challenges of COVID-19. And I think that's something that we all need to bear in mind. The opportunities that technology have brought our way are just simply humongous. Now, having said all of that and giving us that backdrop, I just want to tease out some specific things that we need to pay attention to. So these mega trends are now fueling concerns about key skills. So, PwC spends a lot of investment, just trying to research and find out what is going on. Okay. And I just brought this dated research. It's dated because this was in 2014, thereabout. But it's still as relevant as you can imagine. Okay. There are very few CEOs that are engaged today who are not concerned still in 2021 about finding key skills. Whether you are PwC, whether you are Central Bank of Nigeria, just the skills to navigate the world that we find ourselves now is something very significant in the mind of executives. So, if you like, all up to 81% of CEOs are significantly concerned about where they will find skills to combat the realities of technology. So, do people have the right skills? Now, that's on the CEO side. As an individual, or as a student, or as a young professional, or even a maturing professional, what this means is that there is an ocean of opportunity for you to thrive. Because again, we once had a retirement age. Many organizations still have that. But think about a 60-year-old person who just is able to reinvent themselves and build up new skills. Think about the fact that we are now doing a lot of work remotely. So I don't need to see my grandpa in the office. If my grandpa can code, my grandpa has skills that will help the organization thrive, by all means, my grandpa can have an extended career even into his 90s. We recently lost in Nigeria an elder statesman in his 90s who was clearly a man who was moving with the times, was really in touch with a lot of things that were happening across the world. So, it's very important to identify the opportunities that are staring us in the face as far as these challenges are. So we asked CEOs and many leaders across different nations of the world. And again, this is dated, but it's as relevant as it is now. Even more so, these were the early days in 2014, 2015. We asked in 2014, what will transform the way people work over the next 5 to 10 years? It will amaze you that, again, at the top of the list was technology, ESG, shifts in global economic power. So, all of the things around demographic shifts, around mobility. It's far easier for a millennial, as I will share with you some of their characteristics, to just pack up their bags and go to any nation in the world where they are offered opportunities. You wouldn't believe the different far-flung nations of the world where we have Nigerians and Africans who are making good with their careers. So when you put all of this together and then you throw COVID-19 in a mix, you see the kind of challenge that we have, or opportunity, depending on how you see it. Okay. So again, as far back as 2014, we were asked, many people who were concerned about their jobs at risk. As far back as 2014, that has changed. I was with a group of government officials in one of our state governments on Monday morning at 8:30. They asked me to come and speak. And I was talking about a conversation like this, about how skills were changing. And one guy raised his hand at the end and said, so all of these things that I'm talking about, automation and all that, are we not going to sack people? I mean, you can imagine how that works in government, right? So it's like, are people not going to lose their jobs? And I said to him, it depends on how you see life. If you see life half full, or half empty. I said, what this means is that so he was talking about receptionists, drivers, and secretaries, administrators. I said, if either any of these people decided to go and pick up skills, they will suddenly move from being at risk to becoming sought after. And that's the challenge for those of us who are thinking about the future and who want to lead in the future as well. So again, I've talked about a lot of this. By 2025, McKinsey said robots could, jeopardize, up to 75 million jobs worldwide. And that is significant, not 75 million people, but jobs. Now, people is in multiples. So if you're on this call, either as a leader or a young professional or a student, if you don't take advantage of the opportunities that are coming your way in terms of the things that technology advances, then you could be left behind, as it were. Now, that's not very a good place to be in a world that is now becoming increasingly nationalistic. Okay, so where nations are saying, let's keep what is in America, let's keep what is in Nigeria, and so on and so forth. So there's no place to hide if you don't have the right skills to play. But the reverse is also true, that if you actually have the right skills, because of globalization, I mean, the UK, for example, is offering every carrot you can imagine after Brexit to attract talent from anywhere. I have colleagues in Nigeria who have no British passport, nothing, who have been offered jobs just because they were on LinkedIn and they saw that they had the right kind of skills. So very importantly, let's focus on the opportunities. So let's begin to kind of, go into where we are today. I'm sure we all know Dr. Fauci. Some like him, some don't like him. But I took a quotation from something he said at the beginning of COVID-19 challenges. He said, for a while, life is not going to be the way it used to be. He was wrong. I personally believe that for forever, the world is not going to be the way it used to be. And what is the reason? If you think about how much organizations have saved money from travel, from needless travel, and needless use of resources. If you think about how we have built skyscrapers, when I started working about 3 decades ago, up until maybe a couple of years ago, the banks were springing up branches almost every day. I mean, people made a lot of money by being able to build branches. I mean, I know a particular person in Nigeria who made a lot of money, by selling security doors for bank branches across the nation. But I have not, in this year, I probably have been in the banking hall maybe twice. And I'm sure it's the same with you. And every day, new solutions. I mean, now CBN is coming out with e-money, okay? So there's a meaning, and somebody said, why are they coming up with e-money? I asked the question on the call recently, and they said, well, the sheer cost of producing the cash that you spend. Think about it. We spend money to print the cash. It's so much that it just doesn't make any sense anymore. One of the ways the developed economies of the world have been able to kind of mitigate some level of, burglary and robbery on the road is just by using electronic money or, electronic payments. So if you don't carry cash, then it's, you attack me and take whatever you find, 1,000 naira, but with technology, I can stop you from accessing the rest of what I have. Anyway, so life is, in my view, if you ask me, life is never going to be the way it used to be. I see many people, many leaders, including churches, really clamoring for life to go back to where it used to be. People are going to have a choice now. Now they've seen the benefits, and the earlier that we all pivot to that, the better for us. So virtual teams are here to stay. Virtual work is here to stay. People have found out that they can achieve as much, if not much more, for less, in fact, by working virtually. So, of course, the question to ask is, how do we keep teams focused, motivated, and productive while we do that? Okay. So, what are the options that we have? So just, I think my screen is hanging. Can you see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see your screen, and it just changed now.
Okay.
What I see is virtual teams. I believe that's where you are.
Well, yes, that's where I am. Okay, good. All right, thank you. So I was trying to talk to you about the post-COVID-19 office. When I talk about the virtual workspaces that we have. So for example, we've always known about company offices that we've had in the past. Now we have the hybrid environment where people are saying, I can work from home, but I also can work in the office when I need to be. I spoke about not going to the banking hall or to, but also, I mean, I was speaking to a colleague of mine, so I was at a conference a few days ago and somebody said, I'm seeing this, my colleague, for the first time in 1.5 years because we've been working virtually. But the good news is that, of course, now, because we now know a bit more about COVID-19, there are people who are exploring the options of hybrid, slowly creeping out of our shelters. Okay. So one of the big lessons of virtual working, which is a big issue, and I'm going to talk about that at the end. Uh, it's a key buyer value, if you like, for the millennial generation, is that they want to work flexibly. They don't want to see work as a place to go. The world has always, that's why we built big offices, office complexes. People even made money by building service offices. But work gradually is no longer a place, but a thing, a contribution that you make. All right. Of course, like every opportunity, there is a downside, there is a challenge. And the biggest challenge of virtual work that is a key buyer value of the millennial generation or the Gen Zs is that virtual distance has also been found to impact team performance. Okay. And how is this so? We did some research and we found out that innovation has its best day, okay, with teamwork, okay, where we can spend time and ideate together, where we can fellowship, where we can, you remember they used to say that 80% of communication is body language, not necessarily in the words that you utter. So what we have discovered is very simply that if people can find a way to maximize the benefits of remote work, but also find a way to, once they understand the problem that inability to connect can hinder the team performance, then you can address it. So we found that innovation can be seriously impacted where people are not collaborating sufficiently. I mean, think about culture. When you join an organization, for example, there are things, of course, you attend a 1-week onboarding program and all that, but that's not enough to acculturize you, to make you understand the culture. I mean, pretty much like in a family, you see your leader do something, then you emulate them, you follow them, you say, okay, so this is how this person dresses and all that. But now we're all wearing t-shirts on our virtual calls, and all of that stuff. So when we do have an opportunity to, or a reason to demonstrate the values that the organization is known for, we sometimes have, how do I put it, culture misfits, because people have worked in an organization. I mean, think about anybody that joined an organization 18 months ago, all right? They would have had no idea of what are the nuances of that culture beyond what you can probably teach. And we all know that teaching, many of us will know that, what you learn in the classroom that we are delivering virtually is only maybe 20% of your learning quotient, okay? We also found out that there were challenges with finishing projects on time and within budget. And it's very simple. So while many organizations have found out that virtual work can be very efficient, very effective for the most part, every team always has some, I always call it the C players, the A players who are the great guys, the B players are the average guys, and then the C players are people who freeload, okay? So people like this create a problem for us because they are not able to discipline themselves. So we say that this is the era of the self-directed individual. Some people need the structure of a team to function, at least in the early days, particularly maybe the younger members of the team, who of course again are the millennials, all right, or the Gen Zs in this case, or even they said there's another one, the E generation, or is it the digital generation, who are all getting into the workforce today. Of course, we also discovered that virtual distance hybrid working, when it is not well managed, can lead to up to 80% plunge in trust. And again, this is understandable because most of us have been used to FaceTime, right? You're used to seeing people, okay? And when you see people, you tend to believe that everything is okay. If I, for example, when we were all 100% at work, if I called you and you didn't pick up the phone, I didn't worry so much. I didn't think you had gone AWOL. But when you are working remotely, when I call you and you don't pick up the phone 3, 4, 5 times, some leaders would say, oh, this person appears to have gone AWOL. Maybe they've gone to the gym. And then, of course, you can't blame them very much, because you find that the guy who says he couldn't come to work because the office was on lockdown, the next time you check his WhatsApp status, you find him dancing at a wedding ceremony. Okay, so you're wondering what's going on here. So those are the kind of things that are the realities that we find ourselves in. So what can we do? There are certain things that leaders can do in this area so that we can lead effectively these generations who COVID-19 and technology have made to be what we call digital natives, okay? What are the things that we can do so that we can help them to have, to deliver on the goods? 3 things very quickly. Number 1, we call it the heads, the hearts, and the hands. There are interventions that you can make. These times call for leaders who define what success looks like, okay? And they don't not only do that, they also tell us how to get there. So if you're going to lead, nobody follows a leader that does not have clarity of vision. And I'm sure you have read it before, that when the vision is clear, it becomes compelling. All right, so you write it down so that those who read it can run with it. So if you want to lead people successfully in this new normal of work, not future anymore, because the future, we used to project 5 years in advance, but again, we've learned that you really should be planning for not more than 2, 3 years, because there's things are changing so rapidly. So define what success looks like. Learn to paint clear pictures of what success looks like, okay? And then, of course, because of the trauma of the last couple of years, indeed, maybe more than that, if you think about terrorism and all the economic upheavals all over the world, now people are working remotely and distance from one another. We need to strengthen the emotional commitment to the team. And you need to be a leader who leads with heart. This is a time that calls for leaders who know how to inspire people. One of the challenges that we've had in the last 18 months, for example, is that we've found out that because people are distanced from one another, and we've not spent as much time as we were used to. Mental health issues have become a big part of our world. So what we are asking leaders to do, who now are leading the millennials and the Gen Zs, is to be emotionally intelligent. But there is also the fact that the Gen Zs and the millennials have also been found not to have the same kind of emotional expectations as the earlier generations. I'm trying to avoid using the word emotional resilience, but technology changed the emotional expectations of many millennials. So research has found out that usage of social media and communication on social media has a way of altering your neural connections in terms of what gives you pleasure. So if you think about it, when you post something nice, or you post a picture of yourself eating, or eating in some nice island, in Ibeshe or wherever, or in Maldives, and all your friends like it, and then you have 2,000 likes, you have 20,000 followers, that it creates a kind of hormonal feel good factor in you, that you are now an authority or something like that. Okay, or you are loved. So those like buttons on your social media have been found out to influence the way you perceive feedback, for example. So leaders who are leading this generation, this new generation we're talking about, must recognize, as many educational institutions across the globe have identified, painfully so, that you can't give feedback in the traditional way that we used to. Okay, so we need to now begin to ask questions like, what went well? We don't say you did wrong, you are useless, because you could have someone suddenly have mental health issues because you say that. But we say, well, you could do better if you would do things like this. So we need leaders who engage with heart. And then, of course, enablement, hands, okay? Enable your teams to connect, to communicate, and collaborate. If you're going to win in this technology, digital world, you must be a leader who provides all the tools that people need. Whether it's in your social, not-for-profit organization, or even your profit-oriented organization, you need to equip people with the right tools. When COVID-19 hit, I heard of a particular organization that ran into a mess in the first few months because they had decided many years ago that they were not going to give their people laptops. So everybody had desktops. Now, when we needed to work remotely, we couldn't carry the desktops home. But because the people didn't have laptops, and they didn't have the resources then they didn't want to spend the resources then to invest in laptops for all their staff who now needed to work remotely. They now needed to find a way to go and pick up those desktops and distribute them to the people. So you can imagine the nightmare that was. So as leaders in this world of work, new world of work, lead with direction, clarify, lead with the heart, and of course, enable your people. Okay. Good. So let's begin to talk about the workforce of the future. Again, these are the things that you need to think about. When you think about the workforce of the future, or the future of work, the people who will work in the future or even in the now, what are the things that you need to bear in mind? I just wanted to throw these things in the mix. I've talked about them. So if you start from the left, in the West, in the developing world, not Western Nigeria, you have an aging workforce, right? So decades ago, they decided to have one child, two children, maximum 3 children. Rarely would you find people in the last 20 years having 4 kids like we have. I come from a family of 7 children. So, not in the Western world. But then they said, I don't want to get married, okay? So we and of course, we know that people working contribute to to what you are able to pay to support people in their old age. So they realize that. Now that's why they're welcoming a lot of people, young people from all over the world. But of course, in this part of the world, the demographic is shifting in the opposite direction. So we're having more younger people being eligible to take up good spaces. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, if we're not careful, the mobility that is also accelerating is taking people outside the developing world, where we're still struggling with a lot of things. Of course, we all know that this is all under the umbrella of all the technology, from artificial intelligence to robotic process automation to Internet of Things, where your Google Maps can speak to your car and all those kind of things. And then, of course, I've talked about the social trends around the demand for flexibility, work being a thing rather than a place, globalization of talent, where people can work from here and actually make money across the globe, and so on and so forth. All right. So now let's talk about the millennials and work. I'm 2/3 of the way gone now. So Now, when we talk about all of this, how do millennials think about work? Okay, who are they in the workplace? So research has found, and you know, the interesting thing about this is that I have a friend, a senior HR leader in one of the banks, who says that a lot of the things that are here were also things that the older generation faced, a lot, not all, when they were in their 20s, 30s, and maybe early 40s as well. Ambition and optimism have always been a hallmarks of very progressive people. But it's now become become more so, because in the earlier generation, there was such a big issue about respect. Okay, so why are you in a hurry? You know, your boss is still here. Okay, but the millennials don't. You know, I had a young millennial say to me 2 days ago in the office. You know, she looked me in the face. I was, you know, inspiring her to, you know, to work hard so that she can be a partner, because, you know, she's doing very well. And she said to me, Shola, but I don't want to be a partner. I don't want to be like you. And I said, why? He said, you work so hard, you don't have a life. I took a double take on that, and I was like, oh, really? I didn't think that was a problem. I thought that you have to work hard so that you can pay your bills. But in this digital age, these guys are saying, why do I need to work so hard when I can work less and make much more money, which is probably true, okay? Their concept of loyalty is not, you know, it's not the tradition. They're not aliens. I mean, loyalty and disloyalty have always been constant features of the world of work. Constant, okay? But it has become more so now because of the multiplicity of choices. So people have a choice. There was a time, if you were working for a big, great organization like PwC, for example, or you're working for the Central Bank of Nigeria, you thought, oh, this is it. But today, I mean, I was speaking to a lady last night who's doing some work for a multinational organization, a development organization. I said, oh, Shola, I'm not going to be around for a few months. I'm going to be working in I'm going to be working in Geneva for the next few months. Now, how can you beat that for, you know, and she's very happy to do that. She's like, you know, why on earth should she, what option do I have to offer her that will beat having, you know, spending about half a year to 6 months to a year working in Geneva. You know, if you just think about the longer term implications of that on her career. They also expect work-life balance as a priority, not as an option. At a point in time, organizations try to spin it, you know, in favor of the company, and they called it work-life integration. These guys are saying, no, 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 no. I want to separate my work life, my work from my life. I want to party. I want to decide that I want to walk on the beach, okay? Or I'm going to spend my weekend. I mean, a few years ago, a younger friend of mine suddenly posted pictures of herself, you know, just a single girl in Mauritius. And I said, how did you get there? She said she just decided to go. I said, so who did you go with? He said, no, I just decided to go by myself to go and discover, you know, the waters of Mauritius. So those are realities that are upon us when we're thinking about the younger generation. And then, of course, we've spoken a lot about technology. The technology that they are born into, they expect it to influence, to be a big part of their workplace. So if you have an organization, if you run an organization that does not have strong digital platforms, digital interfaces, COVID-19 or no COVID-19, you are not likely to be a preferred place to work. Okay, so organizations that will give people, the millennials and the Gen Zs, the right kind of employee experience are organizations that make technology a big part of everything that they do. Okay. Okay. So having said that, you know, what are the implications for leaders? Okay, so in attracting them, if I've said they're ambitious, they're less loyal. So if you want to attract them, you must offer opportunities for career progression and personal development. I have a team member, a millennial. She always comes to me, she wants, I'm not finding my work interest. I mean, this is an organization where we are constantly doing new things. Oh, I want to do something new. And I'm like, if your father was a plumber, you're gonna be plumbing all the time. Say, no. I just want to do new things, right? So you got to offer them opportunities for career progression and personal development. Your reputation as an organization matters. They are concerned about your employer brand. So, now it's not a case of you picking and choosing. They also have a choice, okay? They are interested, very key question they're going to ask you, flexible working environment, how much flexibility do you offer your people? Development, they want constant feedback. And I said to you earlier, be very careful about how you give, the feedback so that, you make sure that you land it well. And then, of course, they want global opportunities. They want technology playing itself. So just to wrap up this in the next 5-10 minutes, what can leaders do? Tosin, how much time do I have left?
Your session runs till 11:05. So between now and then, you still have a bit of more time for your session and then for the Q&A, sir.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I'm almost done anyway, so we can take more time with the Q&As. But I think people should put their questions in the Q&A box. Is that okay? Because I don't see any questions there yet, unless I'm already answering all your questions. So having said all that I have said, is setting the context, how the global mega trends, technology, rapid urbanization, the issues around ESG, changing demographics, urbanization, and all of that stuff. Having said that context, having given us a view of the expectations of the millennials, and the Gen Zs, their absolute hunger and preference for digital, for technology, their zero appetite for anything that is boring and plain vanilla, their appetite for the global space and wanting to speak, to experience the world that they've seen so much of on the internet. What can you do as a leader? What are the things that you can do? Okay. I think the first thing to start with, if you care, is consider the factors that are critical to becoming the right kind of employer or the right kind of business partner or parent, as the case may be. Again, in one of our studies, we did a study of what we call the next gen. You must offer opportunities for career progression. Very important. You must offer competitive wages and other financial incentives. Gone are the days where you tell people, wait for your turn, okay? I had a colleague once who joined us and she was maybe like 2 years out of school. But after about 2-3 years, I noticed that, she came up to me and said, oh, she was leaving. She was in one of our teams and she moved to another one and said she was leaving. I said, where are you going? And she was what you would call a senior, senior in the professional services world. And she just got a job with, an international finance organization. And when she told me what the organization was offering her, because she had invested a lot in herself and picked up a lot of skills while she was still in university, it would have taken her maybe another, at best, high flying, maybe another 6 years or 7 to get to that, to earn that kind of money as a director in the firm. But she was going to get that. Now, that it's very difficult to tell someone, don't go because, you're like, go for it, lady. Okay, so it's important to understand that you're competing for talent. People are looking for great people. Now, the flip side is if I am talent myself, I can significantly improve my value and increase my earning power by picking up the right skills along the journey. Okay. And that goes to the third point there, which is that you must pick up excellent training and development programs. One of the most beautiful things about the times that we live in is that if you get on LinkedIn, you can, I tell my friends, at the minimum every week, you can get one new certification, or at least one new badge on LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Udemy, all kinds of platforms offering. Some of them actually free. Some of them maybe $30 a month, which is at best 15,000 naira. The same amount of money that you would spend, doing all kinds of things with airtime or buying a new pair of shoes, buying, the latest whatever. You can invest in yourself so that your value in the economy can significantly improve. Organizations must, of course, offer good benefits packages, not just remuneration now, but things around well-being, your gym and gym access, your crash, all kinds of stuff that are available now. Flexible working arrangements, a big part of that, of expectations. And then, of course, opportunities for international exposure, whether it's virtual because of travel restrictions, but hey, the travel restrictions are being lifted by the day, so you have no excuse if you're going to have the right people stay with you or be attracted to you. But even if you can't do that, get them to go abroad. One thing you can certainly do is to get them involved in international projects. Get them involved. Just give them every opportunity to get a sense of what's happening globally, and then at least maybe you can keep them for another year or two. The second thing you can do is that you can build a compelling employee experience. Many organizations spend a lot of money trying to build customer experience, but they need to pay as much time to much attention and invest as much time in and creating a great employee experience. And that ultimately impacts business. And what does this mean? They want to come to work and feel good that I love this place. They say that the fish rots on the head. This is where leadership training, and that's why one of these things, what we're doing here is very, very high impact. If you don't train your leaders and develop them, and I'm not just talking about putting them in a classroom for 3 days or 5 days, no, we're talking about leadership development, starting from feedback. Many leaders are obnoxious because they've not gotten feedback. They don't have self-awareness. So you must invest in your leaders. Remove everything as much as possible in your environment that creates, that sours the employee experience that people have. It's very, very, very important that you help your organization to build the right employee experience. The third thing you can do is that you can redefine what work means, the concept of work, okay? This is so important, okay? In, again, one of our surveys on the workforce of the future, we found out that many people believe that their work significantly interferes with their personal life. Again, if you think about how technology has invaded our space, pre-2001, when mobile phones were launched in Nigeria, and then we began to have, voice, 24/7 voice. If I have a landline in my office, or I'm sure many people don't even know what a landline is. If I have an office line or an intercom line in my office that connected to the world, before mobile phones came, once I closed, as we say, once I finished work, that is the end of, you don't see me again until Monday. But now, as people even have office email. I have office email on their mobile phones. So I used to have a senior colleague who I'm a church man. I'm a minister in the church. I preach on Sundays. And I had a senior colleague who would send me messages on my, my office email at 9 a.m. on Monday or Sunday morning. Now, I wouldn't read it immediately because I'm not looking at my phone. And sometimes I am because I'm using it to read my Bible. But then sometimes I'm not. But maybe when I take a break in between services, I look at it. And I didn't like to feel because I felt that this person was invading my space. And I gave the person feedback. And, I think other people did. And he stopped. And when we asked him why he does that, well, he doesn't go to church. He says that's when internet the bandwidth is easy because that's when he's able to get smooth internet usage in his home. But so your own inconvenience now becomes an inconvenience to me. So as leaders, we must be mindful that people want to get a life, particularly this generation, the younger generation, or the millennials, the Gen Zs. And I said to people, that's very arguable. For as long as I've worked, I've always wanted to work-life balance myself. In fact, at an early part of my career, I left a major global consultancy after 18 months because my boss at that time wanted me to come and review work on Sunday mornings. And for me, that was not going to happen. I was newly married and I just wanted to go to church, have a good time with my family. I'm not going to go and review your work, particularly when you, were not available during the week. All right. So people want to have a life. Okay. So they want options in their work hours and location. They want to shift their workers. Some people want to work at night. Of course, there has to be a meeting point where we say, well, this client wants us to come at 9 a.m. Right. By all means, I will come. But then don't make me have to work 9 to 5 because you like to work at 9 to 5. I have a colleague in South Africa who, at the bottom of her email, she signs off by saying, it suits me to send you this email at so time because at PwC we work flexibly, but you don't have to respond until it suits you. So that way you're not under pressure. The same person on her WhatsApp platform, you can't, if you're chatting with her friend on a friendly note over the weekend, she'll listen to you. The moment you creep into work, the conversation ends. So people want the option of having control of their time. And I think that if we're talking about what leaders can do. So understand this generation. There's no way on this program I could sufficiently expound on the peculiarities of this generation. But the internet is full of material, resources, videos. I mean, if you get on YouTube alone, there's a popular, there's all kinds of stuff about millennial experiences. A popular video that, we like to show sometimes, we call it the Millennial Interview. It's very funny, about, a leader who was asking the lady to come back, a young, 21-year-old to come to work at 8 a.m. the next morning. And the guy's like, 8 o'clock? How? I'm still in bed. I mean, I chatted all night with my boyfriend in Paris till 3 a.m. So I'm still sleeping at that time. It doesn't mean I don't have anything to contribute and so on and so on. So understand it. Very importantly, because they want to grow, you got to help them to grow. If you are not an organization that provides early exposure to the millennials and Gen Zs, you're going to lose them. You start losing them not just by engagement, not just by exit from your company, but also, first of all, by the engagement of their hearts. And it's a challenge we all have to deal with. Get the deal right. What do we mean by that? What do they want? And what do you want? It must be a deal. As I mentioned earlier, the end has come to what they call a buyer's market in the talent world. It's now both a buyer and a seller, right? So you want to acquire me into your organization, but I also want to decide whether I want to work with you. So people fire their bosses, right? They fire their companies. And you say, well, how come where are they going to eat? How are they going to feed, fend for themselves? Well, they found out that they can build an app on their phone that can pay them 10 times your salary. So, what you're offering is not so exciting. It's not the most exciting thing for them. And it is in your favor if they can come and build that app for you. Let them know how you are doing. Trust and transparency is a big, big issue, because they want to know how the business is doing, and they also like feedback. That is the foundational algorithm, if you like, of social media, right? People want a response. Okay, so don't stay in the old school way of giving me feedback after 6 months or after 1 year. I want feedback today. I want to know how I'm doing. So about 5 years ago, in the world of human resources, we came up with what we call performance management conversations, where leaders were encouraged to have conversations with their team members almost on a not daily, but as close to the time of occurrence of the work as possible, because that gives you the greatest opportunity to change, to get them to improve their performance. Don't think that, oh, you're going to wait till mid-year before you give them feedback. That doesn't work with this generation. They want real-time online feedback and delivered in a structured way. And you can do more. You can Google performance management conversations to get more information on that. Allow faster advancement. This generation don't understand turn by turn. Okay, so if I put my all, if I make significant contribution to give me the opportunity, don't look down on my youth. Don't despise my youth, as we say. And say, oh, I'm too young. No, what does that even mean? And they are not alone in that aspiration. Some of the best banks in Nigeria were founded by people in their early 30s who would have been called millennials at the time. I know at least 3 or 4 of the best banks in Nigeria who were founded by CEOs in their 30s. So give people opportunity, and it will help your organization to be far, far more innovative, because this younger generation, they are not bound by the mental blocks that the older generation have on what is possible. Impossible is nothing, right? So let them challenge paradigms. And if you cannot give them leadership positions per se, you can practice what we call reverse mentoring, right? So you can give them an opportunity to advise, to provide advice to leadership. So at PwC, for example, we have what we call the Next Gen Council, where we have young people who get elected by their peers every year into that role, a council of maybe 10, 12, 20 of them, who advise the management team of the firm on the things that matter to their generation. Because our firm is about 70%, 65% or 70% millennials. So you better listen to them, okay? Encourage learning. They have a voracious appetite for the new, all right? So be that organization, be that leader that makes learning ubiquitous, that is just, so there's e-learning, make it free access, okay? I was privileged to work in a major organization in the US a few years ago, and they had subscriptions paid for everything from Financial Times to The Economist, everything on the internet, right? Once you sign in with your company email, it was paid for, all right? And I'm sure it wouldn't have been expensive because of the economies of scale, all right? So encourage learning as much as possible. Have knowledge sharing sessions, right? This is the knowledge age layered on the digital age, all right? So, and these guys know enough about everything. A colleague of mine who has a 1-year-old or 18-month-old son said to me that every time I call her, it's her 18-month-old son that picks the phone. He knows how to swipe. Who taught them that? Because they learn this thing. So set them free, okay? Release them. There's a book you need to read that might also help this conversation that we're having. I talk about this book all the time because I absolutely love the book. The title is Drive by Daniel Pink. Drive talks about 3 principles that help you to manage this, to lead people in this generation. Talks about autonomy. I'm sure you may have heard about AMP. autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Give them a purpose. Why are we doing this? I was excited when Tosi was talking about why are we doing this, all right, for PLLI, all right? So mastery, give them an opportunity to master what they're doing, and then, of course, set them free. Don't micromanage, right? Just release them. You know, they can probably do a better job than you because they have access to information. And then lastly, you must expect millennials to go. I see many leaders losing sleep in many organizations, including mine, that, you know, oh, we're losing this. This is the reality. So provide for it. Hire for Slack, you know, have a solid succession plan, set up knowledge management systems that capture and capture knowledge so that it is easy to onboard, you know, new people, all right? But that you expect that, you know, these people who have seen all the nations of the world from their desk, from their mobile phone, will stay in your organization and do nothing, and wait until you decide to promote them. It's not going to happen. It's just the reality of the world that we live in. Okay. Now, when we talk about skills that they need to pick up, that you need to invest in, it's not just about digital skills. Digital skills are vital, but they are only a part of the story. Okay. Leadership skills are important. Soft skills, branding skills, you know, role-specific skills. Just provide opportunities for people to learn and to learn and learn. So where do you start this journey from to upskill your people, to build the right skills that helps them to contribute to your organization while they are here? Remember, they want to learn, so you better provide it. Otherwise, they won't come, neither will they stay with you. The first thing, of course, is to assess your organization, right? And I ask that question also for you as an individual. What is your capacity level? What's your capability level? Anyone who is not sufficiently upskilled in the world that we're in will progressively find themselves earning less than those who know more, okay? In America, many years ago in the United States, they did a research document, and you can Google it. They talk about the 1% of America, and they found out that the wealth of America was in the hand of 1% of America's population. And what separated these people from the rest of America was simply knowledge, you know, generations of knowledge, universities that were founded in the 1800s. And so the entire grand family, everyone, you know, they were well educated. Their brains are already very STEM oriented and so on and so forth. But that's America. In Nigeria, what about you? What's your skill set? If there's anything I want you to take away from this conversation, it is that as an organization, you must become a massive learning organization. Learning about the millennials, learning about your marketplace, learning about yourself. And then, of course, as an individual, you must become the best version of yourself possible. Okay? Build a future-proof skills strategy. And for me, the best way to say that is to sit down with your leaders, if you're a business leader, and to think about the future. What are the skills we're going to need in the next 1 year? COVID has taught us to stop planning 10 years in advance. Next 1 year, the next 2 years, what are the skills that we're going to need? And then, of course, you know, future-proof that, right? So think about it, and then make sure that there is a clear pathway for your people to lay the right cultural foundation. Without the right cultural foundation, all the learning, somebody was saying at the meeting yesterday, you teach us to go and learn about agile, and then we'll come back, but there's nothing agile about our team, right? So lay the right cultural foundation. More and more organizations now are paying heavy attention to culture. Do you have leaders who stifle initiative, who shout people down, who talk people down? You've got to work on that. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to you know, get the return on your investment. Once you lay the cultural foundation, then go ahead and invest in serious upskilling for your people, and of course, progressively track return on investment. This is my last slide. So this is basically just a roadmap of what I've just described in the prior slide. You've got to assess. You've got to start. I just want to give you a roadmap to start from here. So assess your baseline. Where are you? If you want to assess your digital skills, PwC has an app called the Digital Fitness assessment. You can find that on App Store or Google Play. I use iOS, so I'm not so familiar with the Google phones. So you can download the digital fitness assessment and assess yourself. But it's not just that, like I said, it's not just digital skills, but it's also leadership skills, soft skills. Okay, what is your presentation style? What is your personal, your presence, your leadership skills, your time management skills, your skills with elocution, with communication, and so on and so forth. What is the culture of the organization? Does it promote? Does it create room? Does it allow younger people to speak? I am in meetings many times where leaders take it upon themselves to do all the talking. Whereas if only they would keep quiet for a moment, some of the millennials can tell them things that they never know. Albert Einstein, the great relativist theorist, said that you cannot solve a problem with the same consciousness that created that problem. So many times you need to hear a voice that is different from your voice, that is new, all right? And then, of course, once you establish your baseline, you can begin to grow knowledge, you can begin to upskill, and then, of course, you will perform. Thank you very much. I hope that I have been able to provide the right context for today's conversations on the future, the mega trends that are driving our world of work, layered or overarching with COVID-19. I hope I've been able to provide some insights on the millennials and their aspirations for the new, for the fast, and for the digital. And I finally hope that I've been able to help to provide a few tips on how you can make your journey. Thank you very much.